On the morning of May 26, 1959, 33-year-old journeyman pitcher Harvey Haddix awoke at 6 a.m. He had the flu, but he couldn't rest. As part of the Pittsburgh Pirates, he needed to head to the Milwaukee Braves ballpark for a game that night. Worse, he was scheduled to start. No one could have known it at the time, but by the end of the day, Harvey Haddix would pitch the single greatest game in Major League history. And then he would lose. Haddix almost never made it to Pittsburgh, and almost never got the chance to play baseball. When he was just 5 years old, he was accidentally hit with buckshot in a hunting accident. Despite accidents and misfortunes befalling him throughout his life, Harvey always maintained that he was lucky. And in some respects, he was. He hadn't started pitching until senior year of high school. Despite that, in 1943, he walked onto a St. Louis Cardinals tryout in Columbus, Ohio. He only threw 12 pitches, but still impressed them enough to be offered a contract. Unfortunately, he was only able to play A-ball for the Columbus Cardinals for a couple of weeks before he had to return to register for the draft on his 18th birthday. He received a deferment from the war due to his status as a farmer, but that meant he had to, farm. It wasn't until he was 21 that he returned to baseball. In 1948, he got promoted to the Cardinals' AAA affiliate. He was almost in the big leagues. But, as fate would have it, the Cardinals simply didn't need him. For 2 years, he stayed in AAA, putting up amazing numbers. But then he was actually drafted in 1950. He had to spend 2 years as the Fort Dix athletic director before his service expired in August of 1952. Then, finally, Haddix joined the big leagues. As soon as Harvey got to the ballpark, he lay down on the trainer's table. An hour before the game was to start, Harvey Haddix emerged from the team's pre-game meeting. Pitchers usually gave a general game plan during such meetings, but oddly, Harvey broke down each hitter individually, one by one. Teammate Don Hoke ended the meeting by remarking that if you pitch those hitters like that, you'll throw a no-hitter. Harvey Haddix was a good pitcher. He had been the runner-up for the National League Rookie of the Year in 1953 with St. Louis, and had been an all-star between then and 1955. Unfortunately, in 1954, he took a line drive off of his left knee, courtesy of Milwaukee Brave Joe Adcock. The injury left him with nerve damage that forced a change to his pitching mechanics and destroyed the effectiveness of his curveball. After 1955, he bounced around the league, pitching first for the Phillies and then the Cincinnati Reds. At 33, he was traded to the Pirates, a team that was a lot like him, good but not great. They had stars like Roberto Clemente and future World Series hero Bill Mazeroski, but would still finish just 78 and 76 in 1959. Coming into that night's game, they were 21 and 19. Unfortunately, Roberto Clemente was not in the lineup on May 26th. He was out with a sore shoulder. Future NL MVP Dick Groat was in a slump and benched, and first baseman Dick Stewart had the day off. If the Pirates were at half strength, the Braves were a rolling juggernaut. They had gone to the World Series the 2 previous years. Their lineup included the likes of Eddie Matthews, a 25-year-old Hank Aaron, and the unsung Joe Adcock, who had changed the trajectory of Haddix's career. Their pitchers were just as formidable, with Roran Spahn and Lou Burdett leading the group. Burdett was set to start that night. Haddix dug into the mound and looked toward his first batter. He had a 4-pitch arsenal, but was only going to use 2 of them, the fastball and the slider. The first at-bat was easy. In one pitch, Braves leadoff hitter Johnny O'Brien hit into a 6-3 out. Then Eddie Matthews came to the plate. With a 2-2 count, Haddix missed his spot. Fortunately, Matthews lined out to third on the next pitch. Hank Aaron then flew out to center field after 5 pitches. It had taken 13 pitches to retire the first 3 hitters. It wouldn't take that many pitches to complete any of the next 8 innings. In the second, Joe Adcock struck out swinging, and Wes Covington and Del Crandall both grounded out. In the third, Andy Pafko flew out to right, Johnny Logan lined out sharply to Dick Schofield, and opposing pitcher Lou Burdett was struck out on 3 pitches. It was after this inning that Haddix later said he first started to think about throwing a no-hitter. By the start of the fourth, the Pirates' bench was quiet as Harvey worked. And work he did. Johnny O'Brien struck out looking, then Matthews and Aaron both flew out to center. Inning 5 is the best illustration of Haddix's brilliance. In just 4 pitches, Joe Adcock grounds out, while both Wes Covington and Del Crandall flew out to left field. The Braves were a very free-swinging team the entire game. 10 at-bats consisted of just 1 pitch. You'd think that they would start to take more pitches, but no. The number of 1-pitch at-bats is greater after the 6th inning than before it. It's like the batters saw the pitches they wanted. That's because they did. In 1989, Milwaukee pitcher Bob Buell revealed to Harvey at a reunion of the two teams that the Braves' bullpen had stolen signs the whole game, using binoculars to pick up the signs that Burgess flashed to Haddix. One reliever then signaled the batter. Towel on the shoulder meant fastball, no towel meant breaking ball. Supposedly, only Hank Aaron didn't use the signals. Harvey wasn't just dominating. He was doing it despite the batters knowing what was coming, all the while downing throat lozenges in between innings. Still, he settled into a rhythm. The results seemed automatic at this point. Pafko and Logan grounded out in the 6th, while Burdett struck out again. O'Brien and Aaron each grounded out to 3rd in the 7th, while Matthews struck out. In the 8th, Adcock struck out, followed by a Covington flyout and a Crandall ground out. Then came the 9th. Harvey stood on the precipice of history. Only 6 perfect games had ever been recorded, with just 4 after 1901. Perfection is an abstract concept. It isn't actually achievable because improvement is always possible in a largely imperfect universe. Perfection is so unachievable that getting close to it is random, a fluke of circumstance. But baseball, in its eternal and hopeless quest to find order in a chaotic and random world, defines perfection. A perfect game is when 27 outs are recorded without a single runner reaching base. We can easily think of things that are more perfect, more close to true perfection. 27 strikeouts on 81 pitches comes to mind. But as it is, perfection as defined in baseball is nigh impossible to achieve. You can be the best pitcher ever and not come close. Nolan Ryan holds the record with 7 career no-hitters, but even he never pitched a perfect game. But the kid from Medway, Ohio was going to. 3 men still stood in his way. Andy Pafko was first. Called strike. Ball. Foul. Then on pitch 4, Pafko swung and missed. Johnny Logan stepped up to the plate. He swung on the first pitch he saw and flew out to left field. 2 outs. 1 left. Lou Burdett was left. There are no less than 13 Wikipedia entries for perfect game attempts spoiled by the 27th batter. This is not one of those times. It's unknown whether Burdett looked toward the bullpen for a signal or not. It didn't matter. Ball. Strike. Foul. Harvey went to his fastball for the 4th pitch. His fastball barely topped 90. But his placement was perfect.
Struck him out swinging. Haddix pitches a perfect 9-inning no-hit, no-run game. A standing ovation.
It was perfection. Hall of Famer Greg Maddux famously recorded a complete game with just 78 pitches in 1997. A Maddux is in fact the nickname for shutouts thrown in under 100 pitches. Harvey Haddix had just thrown 9 perfect innings in 78 pitches. It's the least amount of pitches thrown in a perfect 9 innings since at least 1908. The crowd of 19,194 stood and applauded as Harvey left the mound. His moment of triumph had arrived. But the game wasn't over. It wasn't close to over. The Pirates hadn't scored. Through 9 innings, they had 8 hits and nothing to show for it. The 1959 Pirates would finish their season with 1,414 hits and 651 runs scored, giving them a hit conversion rate of 2.17. That's not great. That means they needed more than 2 hits to score a single run, on average per game. That still means, though, that with 8 hits, the Pirates would be expected to generate 3 or 4 runs of offense. Instead, they were goose-egged. Lou Burgess wasn't necessarily pitching badly, but he was greatly helped by double plays, including one that Harvey himself grounded into, and mere chance. The Pirates even came up empty in the 3rd inning, despite totaling 3 hits. The Pirates understood the gravity of the game. Dick Groat remarked that, "When we were up, we yelled at our guys at the plate because it was so frustrating to watch them squander opportunities when it was clear Harvey had great stuff." Perhaps they weren't meant to score. In the 7th inning, Pittsburgh Pirate Bob Skinner hit a deep shot to right field that seemed destined for the stands. Future home run king Hank Aaron slowed down to watch it land. But then, a gust came down, as if by divine providence, and dropped the ball into his glove just a few feet from the fence. There was no wind thereafter, and very little beforehand. Pirate center fielder Bill Verdon observed, "Okay, maybe it just isn't meant to be for Harvey to win this game." What makes Harvey's performance starting in the 9th inning so remarkable is that as the visiting pitcher, he knew, when he stepped up to the mound, that even if he stopped the Braves in this inning, he'd have to return the next and do it again. Winning matchups just meant winning the opportunity to fight on. The Pirates managed just a hit in the inning's top half. Harvey then sat down pinch hitter Del Rice, coming in for O'Brien, and Eddie Matthews, both on flyouts to center field, while Hank Aaron grounded out. All of this happened on 6 pitches. In the 11th, the Pirates wasted a single with another inning-ending double play. Harvey got Adcock to ground out, while Covington and Crandall flew out to center. In the 12th, another Pirate hit went nowhere, and their time was running out. Harvey was beginning to tire. His last strikeout was recorded in the 9th inning, but he was still fighting. Pofko grounded out. Logan flew out. And then, tellingly, Lou Burgess grounded out. Lou had struck out in his last 3 at-bats. Now, he was making contact. The 13th inning. Once more, the Pirates managed an ultimately meaningless hit. Then Harvey came out for yet another inning. He hadn't faced his next opponent before, though. Felix Mantilla was in for pinch hitter Del Rice. Harvey handled him the same, but it wouldn't be the same result.
Mantilla, bouncing ball to Pope, comes up on the big hop from third, throws into the dirt, the ball is stopped. So the Braves have their first base runner in Mantilla. An error is charged, and we'll see to whom.
It was over. 36 batters remains the most ever hitters retired consecutively in a game. Harvey didn't care about that, though. He had a game to win. The next batter was Eddie Matthews.
Here's the pitch. There's the bunch right out in front of the plate. Up comes Haddix. He'll have to go to first base. On to Mazeroski on the sacrifice. Mantilla gets the second. And up comes Henry Aaron.
It was then decided to intentionally walk Hank Aaron. This made it possible to end the inning via double play, just as the Braves had done so often to the Pirates throughout the game. The next batter was Joe Adcock. His teammates today are much more remembered for their power, but Adcock had some of his own. He was the first player to ever hit a ball into the center field bleachers at the Polo Grounds. Harvey missed with his first pitch for a ball. He looked in for the sign for pitch 2. Slider. Maybe if Adcock's line drive hadn't hit his knees earlier, he could have thrown a curve. Maybe if his career hadn't been interrupted by military service. Maybe if he wasn't sick. Maybe this situation wouldn't have occurred. Maybe Adcock would not be at bat with runners on first and second right now. Maybe. Harvey made the pitch. It slipped too high in the zone.
There's the pitch. There's a fly ball deep right center. That ball may be on through and over everything. It is gone. Home run. Absolutely fantastic. Haddix loses 3-0 on a one-hitter in the 13th inning.
In 1959, the Pirates played 21 extra inning games and won 19 of them. That was a record for the most extra innings victories in a season. Virtually no one spoke in the Pirates' locker room after the game. What could they have said? Lou Burdick called Harvey and told him that he had deserved to win the game. Harvey didn't care about the personal accolades. The team had lost, so there wasn't much fuss to be made. He turned down appearances on The Ed Sullivan Show, What's My Line, and To Tell the Truth. He also received countless letters and telegrams, his favorite of which was the succinct message he got from a Texas A&M fraternity. Dear Harvey, it read, tough shit. Harvey played for the Pirates until 1963, pitching in and winning the classic 1960 World Series. He then played 2 seasons for Baltimore before retiring in 1965 at age 39. He then spent the next 14 years as a pitching coach for the Reds, Mets, Red Sox, Indians, and Pirates. He quickly faded into obscurity after the game. World Series hero Bill Mazeroski once remarked that, people ask me all the time what the most memorable game I've ever played in was. Half the time, I tell them it was Game 7 of the 60 series. The other half of the time, I tell them it was the night Harvey Haddix threw the finest game in the history of baseball. Then they'll look at me and say, Harvey who? The worst part of this story is that Haddix was the winning pitcher in Game 7 of the 1960 World Series, appearing in relief to end the game. In 1991, even Harvey's claim to fame was altered. In September of that year, the MLB Committee for Statistical Accuracy changed the official definition of a no-hitter, declaring it a game of 9 innings or more that ends with no hits. Harvey gave up a hit in the 13th, meaning his game was removed from MLB's official lists of complete game shutouts, no-hitters, and perfect games. Marcia Haddix, Harvey's wife, was upset, but reports that when she told Harvey, his response was calm. It's okay, he said. I know what I did. Harvey died 3 years later of emphysema, age 68. Baseball is a sport that loves its history. Many fans can quote lists of its leaders and in many metrics. Most home runs, most steals, most wins, most games played consecutively. These lists are important to baseball and people that love it, but they're only important because of the stories, the struggles and the triumphs that the lists tell of. Harvey Haddix no longer appears on the MLB list of perfect games, but that merely makes baseball's official story less rich. Harvey's game is none the lesser because it doesn't appear on arbitrary lists. Instead, Major League Baseball is thus rich because it has forgotten Harvey Haddix. Harvey knows what he did. We know what he did. On May 26, 1959, an ill, mediocre journeyman had his sign stolen by one of the best offenses in the league, and then gave the best pitching performance in baseball history. His name was Harvey Haddix.
Stuck him out swinging. Haddix pitches a perfect 9-inning no-hit, no-run game. A standing ovation. Ladies and gentlemen, Harvey Haddix has just become the 7th pitcher in the history of all baseball to pitch a perfect no-hit, no-run 9-inning ball game.